Alright guys, I'm back with another video. So I'm going to go over how to set this up. We're going to do it step by step. I will have to, you'll notice that whenever the angle is real high, he pulls his hand back and then re-aims. I'm holding down the aim button, by the way, right now. If you don't like this mechanic, then feel free to modify this logic however you wish. Some of you might want to, but you'll see it respects the animation even whenever he's jumping and landing. And he keeps his grip on the weapon while he's mantling and vaulting. And if I land while aiming, you'll see it still looks fine. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to leave this project open because I'm most likely going to have to refer back to it. I don't have photographic memory, and I have a lot of values that I'm using here for weights for the interpolation of this value. So we have to interpolate it at different rates and apply a different percent of it at different times based on different circumstances. So mostly for the overlay strength weight, and I'll get into that. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a dynamic additive layering system. So you'll see I cached to this motion matching, and right here I'm setting it up in local space. I'm using a neutral pose. A neutral pose is very important whenever you're applying things, when you're applying locomotion additively over the top of a pose, you need a good neutral pose. And since the poses that I'm using are from ALS, this pose is the pose that those animations will respect properly. So mesh space is best for lower body in most cases. In some situations, you'll want to apply mesh space to the arms, especially for precision. But for the most part, you don't really need it that often on the upper body. This stuff right here, like additive leans and aim offsets, they get applied in mesh space. So I've gone over all of this in my advanced animation series. So if you guys want to know more about it, then you can go and watch that series. I'll have a link up here at this point of the video. So feel free to check that out. And so let's get started. So this is quite a setup here. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to open up an ALS project, and you're going to want to export some of the animations, and I'll go over that with you. So I don't think I'm actually going to be using the curves on there. So, and curves do have a performance cost, so I'll just have you guys export the no curve versions. So let me just browse. So I'm going to use the ALS props pistol one-handed pose. I advise you do the same. We'll have to handle two-handed weapons differently. That's the reason why. Mostly, especially for mantling. Whenever you're mantling, if you don't want the rifle to go through the object that you're mantling, then you're going to want a custom pose to add over it while they're mantling. So I'll go over that maybe in another video. But we're just going to go with the pistol one-handed one, because it'll be the easiest to deal with for now. And so you're just going to export the no curves one. It has all these different poses in it. And you can use all of these in yours if you want. I'm only going to use a couple of them. And you're going to want to, and that's under the Additive Locomotion V4, Character Assets, Mannequin Skeleton Animation, Examples, Overlays, and Pistol. So you want to go into the base folder as well and go into base poses. And you're going to want to export this ALS in pose too. I've already done that actually. I believe it's still there. So what you're going to want to do first is you're going to want to import it onto the UE4 mannequin. So I'm just going to create a new folder here and call ALS poses. You can name yours whatever. You can think of some kind of structural hierarchy if you want. But actually I'm not going to make a subfolder in mine. I'm going to import now and go to the folder where you exported them and just highlight both of them and say open. And then you're going to come through here and you're going to import it onto the UE4 mannequin. And under advanced, I always check use default sample rate since these are 30 frame per second animations. And I'm just going to go ahead and save that. Now we're going to retarget these. So you can select both of them and go to retarget animations. And you're going to look for the UEFN mannequin, the orange one. And you're going to select both of these and select export animations. If you select this, it's just going to create IK retargeters and all of that, IK rigs and stuff, I think. So just export the animations. We don't need that other stuff. And under UEFN animations, or wherever you want to put it, I'm just going to put it in an ALS poses folder and export. And there you go. You have that. Now I'm going to open up both of these and I'm going to do something here because I think it's best practice. These aren't actual animations, they're just poses. And so if you see right here, you see what it's doing right there. It's interpolating between frames. We actually want to just put this to step. This will make sure that it doesn't try to interpolate it. If you don't do that, you're going to get mixed results because you're going to get blends of multiple poses in some situations. So just don't do that. Set it to step. And just for, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let me go back over here. And just for brevity's sake, I'm going to set this one to step as well. Probably could have done that right after importing, but I will. So now we have our poses. And I am going to go into the, let's see, the blueprints folder. And just open up the animation blueprint. And the first thing we're going to do is just move this up here. You can put it wherever and drag off of this and we're going to cache it. Just type in cache, cached pose, new save, cached pose. I'm just going to call it motion matching pose. And I'm going to say pose over here. And I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on this. I know most of y'all don't care anyway. You just want the animation system. So I'm just going to drag both of these out here and right click and convert them to single frame animations. And now you're going to make Dynamic Additive. And the thing to know about this Make Dynamic Additive is over here in the details, you have one setting here, and it's Mesh Space Additive. If you check that, it'll apply it. It'll make it in mesh space. If not, then it's in local space. We're just going to click select this. This is going to be our additive right here. And so this is going to be our neutral pose. And what it's going to do is it's going to get the difference between this base and this additive. And then it's going to add it to whatever we apply it to. And so we're going to apply additive. And actually this needs to be the additive right here. And so since I'm actually going to make this into a state, I may as well just go ahead and do that now. What we're going to do is we're going to create a state machine. And we're going to call this overlay state, I guess. And then we're going to cache this. And this is going to be the overlay pose. And then over here, we're going to get the overlay pose. And now we've applied it. We're not going to do the mesh space one. We don't really need that. I'm not going to get into this. I'm not going to create a real sophisticated layering system. We're just going to keep it simple in this video. Now we're going to cache to this. And in case you don't know what caching is, it's like saving something to a variable, except instead of a value, we're saving a pose into a variable. We're storing it to use it later. It keeps us from having to multiply all this stuff and have it in multiple places. And so we're going to call this additive overlay local space, for lack of a better term. I don't know what I used in mine. I probably used a better term for that. We're just going to call this, I'm just going to comment this there we go. We'll set this up here in a minute. So now we need to get our additive overlay local space, and we need to get a copy of this as well. And we're going to do a layered blend per bone. And we could use a branch filter, but I'm going to use a blend mask instead. So go over to your skeletal tree and press this gear icon and go to blend profiles and add blend mask. And I'm just going to call it upper body. And I'm going to say, let's see, 0.75 on spine 5, 0.6, 0.45, and 0.35, 0.25. Yeah, something like that should probably be fine. You could probably actually get away with 0.4, make it look a little more even there. And then on this clavicle 1, we're going to say 1, and we're going to recursively set blend scale to 1. And the same with this other one. And then we're going to say 0.75 on this too. And that's just because they have that aim offset that turns the head, and if you don't, it can make it look like he's turning his head around backwards, like something from The Exorcist, and it just doesn't it doesn't look very good. So we're going to expand that, and we're going to choose upper body. We want this to be in mesh space rotation blend for this local space right here. It just basically means that the rotation blend itself will be in mesh space. And like I said, you can go over some of my other videos to understand that a little bit better. Now we're going to make a second one right here. So right here, what we're doing is we're just layering this over the top of that. Now, if we stop there, actually, I guess we can go ahead and I can go ahead and show you guys what it looks like. So before I do that, I need to plug this up. And you can double click this to open it up and just stop that right there. And so you'll see this one, he has his hips twisted. We don't want that one because when he's running, we don't want his hips to be twisted. Also, in ALS, the right foot was forward and the left foot was back. But in this one, the left foot leads and the right foot is back on their animations. So you kind of don't want to use this anyway, because when you additively apply that over the top of it, it's going to cancel. They're going to cancel each other out, basically. So, I mean, we're not actually applying this to the lower body anyway. So, but we'll go ahead and use 5. And I always like to go a little ways into 5, just so we don't accidentally end up on the previous pose. So 0.18 should suffice. And you'll see that he's holding the gun. And now we can go ahead and try this and see what it looks like. And so you'll see how his hand's swinging a lot. That's because in the locomotion animation that we're additively applying over this, that's how that's how much his arm is swinging. And also, if you watch his fingers are doing some funky stuff. So we have to take that into consideration too. And so you'll see there's all kinds of problems here, but we'll address those as we go. So let me close out some of those. I don't know what all this stuff is, or why I have. Okay, this is the ALS, so I can close out of that one. All right. So anyway, moving on. So now you know what that looks like. So what we're going to do is we're going to dampen that motion right there with a second layer right here, and then we're going to fix the fingers. So all we need to do is we need to get this overlay pose. So right here, this overlay pose, this cached one right here, we're going to duplicate that, and we're going to set that right here. We're not going to use a blend mask this time, we're just going to use a branch filter. And this is also going to be in mesh space rotation. And we're going to say clavicle R. That's our the first bone in the chain of our right arm. So this one right here. So for now, we'll just do it like that. And now you'll see he's pointing more straight forward. But there's a problem. It's completely stiff, as you can see. And you see how his arm lags behind? We're going to fix that. And also, sometimes it looks funny whenever he's jumping. It just doesn't look very natural. And also, whenever we land, you see how hard that was? His head went way down, but his arm stayed perfectly out in front. So we're going to fix that as well. So for one, how this works is 1 means that we're 100% playing this and we're ignoring all of this. 75% means we're 75% playing this. 25% of this gets played. So on and so forth. 50 means 50 and 50. So I'll just show you if I do 0.75. Now you'll see his arm's not so stiff and it's moving a little bit. It still looks a little funny right there how it drags behind. It just doesn't look very natural. Also, there's a problem sometimes. You'll see that his hand respects the montages right there, but we're going to fix that. Sometimes whenever he lands real hard, see his head still kind of bobs down, so we're gonna fix that. And what we have to do is we have to make these blend weights dynamic, and based off of certain conditions we need different blend weights in order to overcome those problems. But first, let's go ahead and fix the fingers. So I'm just going to duplicate this one, and we're not actually going to put this one right here, and there's a reason why. It's because when we're playing those montages, they're played on this slot, so we actually want this to be after that, but we want it to be before this, just in case we ever do layer something on this that affects something that this could fix. If we put it after that, then this wouldn't fix it, so we're going to keep it right there. So I'm just going to select all of this and move it over. And I'm going to copy this on the overlay pose. And we're going to use a branch filter on this one as well. And we could just do it only for the fingers, but for now I'm just going to do it for the hand. Otherwise you have to go in here and you have to put in every single one of these fingers into there. And in actuality you probably want these, not the metacarpals, but anyway. So I'm just going to say hand right. We don't need blend depths for these. The blend depth, in case you didn't know, the blend depth is how many bones you want this to be faded across. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. So if you had this one right here, it's 1, which means 100% of this right here gets applied on this layer right here, on this blend mask. But let's say I have this one right here, the branch filter. This will make it easier to understand. So if I set this to 3, or let's just say I set it to 2, then that would mean 1, 2. So the clavicle R, if this was 1, the clavicle R would be 50%, and then this one would be 100%, and then every bone after that would be 100%. If I set the blend depth to 3, then this one would be like 33%, this one would be 33%, and then this one would be like 100%. I mean, this one would be 66%, and then this one would be 100%, and then every one after that would be 2. So that's how that works. So anyway, we don't need the hand rotation to be in mesh space, I don't think. It's probably best that it is, I think. Yeah, we may revisit that if it causes any problems. I don't think in mine, I don't think I set that to mesh space. All right, so now we start getting into the more complex part of it. So this is going to be the overlay, the additive overlay weight. This is going to be the additive overlay strength. And I'm just going to delete these actually. And I'm going to, actually no, I'm not going to delete those. My bad. So I'll just set a default value of 0.75 right there. It should be, if you did it the way I did it, those values should have been retained in the variable that we created. So let's see. Now there's something here that I need. Is pivoting. No, it's so we need to account for just landed heavy. Otherwise, in some cases, it causes some bugs. Oh, the aim offset. So over here in enable aim offset, we're going to reuse this and for these weights down here. We're going to account for that. This will allow us to prevent that lag of the hand whenever we're pivoting real hard. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to collapse this to a function, and let me see, actually aim offset threshold is what we're going to call it, or AO threshold. And we're going to make it a pure function, and I'm just going to make it thread safe. It's already set to thread safe, so actually I don't need to do that. And it does need to be return value, this right here. It looks like it already did that for us. That's cool. And we're going to put this under the aim offset. Now, on the anim, well, not on the anim graph, on the event graph, we're going to handle this overlay weight and this overlay strength. And we're going to do interp2s, float interp2s for both of them. The reason why is because if we change these values, it's just going to snap on and off, and we don't want that. And the on here, the blend weights, they don't have anything that lets you add interpolation from here. So you have to handle interpolation yourself. That's what the finterp2 is going to be. So the current is going to be the same variable that we're applying this to. So we're going from where the weight currently is to whatever our target weight is. And so we need to store this delta time variable. So just click out here and promote it to a variable. And I'm selecting these and pressing Q on the keyboard to align them in case some of you don't know. And now I'm just going to do this. And now I'm going to promote this to variable, and this is going to be the additive overlay interp speed. And we're going to use that for both of them. I am going to refer back to my other one here in a minute because it was trial and error for me to get these values just right and to figure out all of this. So it's not something I can easily do on the fly. And to be honest, I'm not good under pressure like this, if you want me to be perfectly honest with you. All right, so yeah, I know I'm nitpicking at these little details right here. It drives me crazy. I'm a little OCD, I guess. All right, so now it's time for me to look back because, like I said, this was trial and error. All right, so right here you can see that I got that can overlay aim. That's actually, oh, okay. Yeah, that's where, okay. I forgot about that. Yeah, so if he wants to aim and he's on the ground and he hasn't just landed heavy, we don't care about light lands. We just care about the heavy ones because the heavy ones can cause that effect where the head goes beneath the arm. If all of those conditions are met, then we're going to, this target additive overlay weight value is going to be 1. Otherwise, 0.35, which allows a lot of swing in the, well, it makes the animation match less of the overlay pose and more of the locomotion pose while still maintaining some of the overlay pose. And I go into more detail here. I say we are interpolating the weight shift for the overlay. If he is in the air, we want him to still be able to aim, but we need to reduce it because the ADS pose clashes with the in-air jump looping pose. This may not be needed later when I create a hip fire pose that aims at a lower position, which should prevent that problem while in the air. And the reason why is because he's aiming out dead straight in front of him at a 90-degree angle to his torso. So any uplift on the arm is going to make it do funny things. So that one's pretty self-explanatory. So we're going to go ahead and create a function here. And that's can overlay aim right. Can overlay aim. It's going to be a pure function. And I'm just going to make it thread safe just to be safe. And we're going to add a output variable here, leave it as Boolean, and rename this to return value. It may be that at some later date we want to use this in a chooser. And if you want to use this in a chooser, these are the requirements. It has to be named return value, thread safe, and pure. So we're going to do a property access because this is thread safe. I can't access this reference right here directly from inside of here. I have to do it from a property access. So we're going to scroll down and we're going to look for let's see, aiming. wants to aim. Sorry, I forgot the name of it. I forgot about that. So actually, if you go over into your blueprint and your CBP, sandbox character, and you come down here, you'll see they already have the enhanced input stuff set up for it, and they have this being triggered on and off. So we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to set that up. So if he wants to aim and he's on the ground, so if we go into our states and we get our movement mode and we say it's equal to on grounded, or on ground, I mean. And is pivoting? Just landed heavy. And we're not just landing heavy, right? Okay, so just landed heavy right here under your movement analysis. We're going to do a knot off of this. We're going to press that add pin to add another pin. And there we go. We got that now. That's done, out of the way. And so we can say select float off of this. And drag this out. And this will be 1, and this will be 0.35. That's all we have to do for that one. Let's see, what was my default value for that on this one? 7. Okay, sounds about right. So 5 is real slow, 10 is faster, 30 is really fast, 60 is almost instant. So you don't want it to be too fast. 7 isn't too slow, but it's not too fast either. 10 is, in my opinion, just a little bit too fast, but you can experiment with those values if you want. And so that's already automatically applied over here. But this one, we're actually going to make dynamic based off of some values. So let me go back. So the actual blend, the actual amount of blend during hard pivots, which a hard pivot will be when we're pivoting and we're not within the aim offset threshold. And the aim offset threshold right here, I set it to 90. It is 135 by default, but I set it to 90. And that seems to be okay. So actually, oh, it's 115 by default. So you can leave it at 115 if you want, but I thought 90 was more appropriate for our use cases. And so we're going to get this, and we want to reduce it if, yeah, let me rename this to what I named it over there. Is within AO threshold, because that makes more sense. Oops, don't just type in not and press enter. So if we're not within our threshold and we're pivoting, so is pivoting right here. We're going to have the value 0.25, which is really low. That means that the strength is going to be, he's still going to be aiming in the general direction, but his hand is going to be moving around a lot. You can make it stiffer if you want, but I found that a quarter of the strength during hard pivots was better. It looked more natural to me. Right. And then we can do a can overlay aim. So I did almost full strength if we can overlay the aim. And the reason why is because I didn't want a lot of bobbing around of the hand during the jogs. And you can do it based off of state too if you want. Maybe when you're idle, you want more of that idle motion in there. But when you're jogging and maybe when you're walking, you want more of it in there. But maybe when you're jogging, you want less of it in there. It depends on how stable you want the character's hand to be during all those different interactions. So that part is out of the way. This is the hardest part, I think. So we've almost got this part out of the way. So on this one, I told you, man, my mind is all over the place today. Okay, so if they are pivoting and they are within the ambient, the ambient occlusion, the aim offset threshold, then we want the interpolation speed to be slightly faster than 7. You don't really need to do this part, honestly, but I thought it was better this way. And if it's not, then we want, so I'll say 10. This needs a little bit more space there. So, and I'm kind of doing this one a little opposite. You could do it like this one, except plug this into A and then have B10, but it's up to you. And so that's out of the way. I'm not going to comment mine, but I'll come back over here and let you guys read this stuff. So we greatly reduce the blend of the overlay strength and increase the speed at which it blends during pivots so that it doesn't feel like something's pulling at his arm, you know, from the other direction. And then right here, we reduce and if you move your cursor over here and then click on that bubble, it'll do that. And you can press this button to make it go away. So we reduce the blend so it looks more natural during hard pivots, and we increase the speed at which it blends into that reduced blend. So if you don't change the speed, and it's a very fast movement, then it'll take a long time for it to blend into this, and by the time it blends into this, that fast movement is already done and over. You see what I'm saying? And that's the reason why we reduce this, but we also reduce the interp speed. For this right here, for the overlay weight itself, it's not that big of a deal because it carries a lot of that locomotion animation on it. And that's the reason why I'm not really messing with the overlay interp speed here. But you can do the same thing over here as what I'm doing over here, but I didn't really feel like it was that necessary. So anyway, Now we need to finish. And that's where the overlay state comes in. And I'll go ahead and show you this. So I'm actually not doing this right here. I'm using 0.8 on here. And I don't have the animation open, but I can double click it to open it. And this is 0.8. It's where his hand is pulled back. So that's the one I'm going to be using for this one. You can use one of the other ones if you wish. And for the aiming, I'm using 0.18 like we're already using. And then for this rule right here, you'll see I'm accounting for the state weight. I had actually forgotten about that, so I'm glad I came back and looked. And when pivoting hard, we need to ensure that the state is not jumping back into the aiming state until the ready state has at least blended a good bit. And the reason why is because if we don't, it'll jump over here during a hard pivot, but then it'll just immediately go back within like a frame or two. So maybe even the same frame. So anyway, well, not the same frame, at least, you know, maybe the next frame, but we don't want that. So that's why I am getting the state weight of this state here. And I'm saying, hey, don't go from this state to this state until this state is at 99%. And then right here, we want to return to the ready state if we are pivoting real hard, or else it will look like the hand is being left behind. You know, said that before. So if we don't want to aim, or we are not within the aim offset threshold, then we will return. So that's what we're going to do here. Let's see, where did I hide it? So I'm going to just cut that, and I'm going to come into here. And I'm going to make a state. I'm going to call it ready. And then I'm going to make another state, and I'm going to call it aiming. And then on this state right here, we're going to do a property access, and we're going to get the wants to aim. And we're going to do a not. So if we're not wanting to aim, or we are not within the aim offset threshold, then we will return from the aiming state back to the ready state. I'm just going to copy this one, and I want to put it inside of this one, going this way. I'm going to do an and off of this one. I'm going to get the state weight ready. It should be the only one that pops up because it's coming out of that state. You can't get the state to the one you're going to. You can only get the one that you're coming from. And if that is greater than 0.9, then we will go into the aiming state. I did it. Let me pull this back in here. We're going to set this one to 0.18. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to delete that. And then I'm going to come over here And this one is going to be 0.08. And let me make sure, was it point? Yeah, 0.18. And hopefully I didn't miss anything. So that's a lot of setup there. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, so that's why I didn't set that to mesh space. You seen how the hand was angled up at in a funny way? That's why you don't want to do it in mesh space. Yeah, see, that looks better. So I'm aiming. Yeah, there we go. If I do a hard turn, and let's do a jump. And now let's aim and do a jump. And now let's do a volt aiming. And let's do a volt aiming. And a mantle aiming. And now let's do it without aiming. Yeah. And now let's do a big one aiming. And now let's do a big one without aiming. Alright guys, so it went a little bit smoother than I thought it was going to be honest with you. That was a lot of setup there. Alright, so anyway, if you found this useful, let me see, 1 second. I want to try a heavy land. Oh, wait, I didn't take the heavy landing into consideration, did I? Yeah, we did. We set up that. It just seems like it's still a little too rough on the heavy landing. Let me see. Let me make sure. I might have overlooked it. I don't remember if I did or not. I mean, you could do... You could do a NOR here, which is not this or that. Actually, I could have used a NOR on that other one too. Oh well. I can try adding that light one to the equation. Okay, maybe we did need to do that for the light, but let's just see if that helps. Because I'm not really sure what constitutes a light landing versus a heavy landing in here. I haven't really explored it that much. Yeah, that looks a lot better. All right, well, I mean, so I guess, light and heavy landing, any landing. But yeah. All right, guys. So if you found this helpful, make sure to like down below and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.